Which translation sticks closest to the original Greek? And the key word there is original Greek. I think the answer to that might surprise you. I think it's the American Standard Version, the Byzantine Text Edition. Now, I have a number of qualifiers for this, and I have a number of reasons why I want to give you this. But please stick with me to the end of this video, because I promise you, if you're a viewer of this channel and you haven't heard about this resource and you have any interest at all in textual variants, you will be so happy that I told you what I'm going to tell you at the end of this video. But the American Standard Version is the version that you probably never heard of. At least you've heard of the American Standard Version. You haven't heard of the American Standard Version Byzantine Text Edition. Now, what I'm talking about here is sticking woodenly, closely to the original Greek. The American Standard Version was widely criticized for being too wooden, too literal. If you think the New American Standard Bible, which was a revision of this edition, is wooden in its translation, which is something almost everybody always says, which is probably cliche and maybe overused, the American Standard Edition that preceded it, this was in 1901, closely working with Revised Standard Edition. This is American Edition, the Revised version. It stuck even more closely. And what my friend Adam Boyd has done, he's a missionary, a Bible translator. He's adapted the American Standard Version, which came into the public domain, to reflect Byzantine wording. So if you are like me and you think the Byzantine text more closely aligns with the original autographs, the original text that the apostles wrote, then you'll want to get your hand on this. Now, by saying that, I'm not saying that this is the best translation in the world. In fact, Adam Boyd, the translator, the reviser of this, I don't think he would say that either. I'm not saying it should be your primary translation, but if you want a very, very close rendering of the Greek, which sometimes arguably is not the best rendering of the Greek, because Greek and English they're different languages and they don't function the same way. And just getting a wooden literal translation sometimes might not be the best translation. And so, again, this has been a revision that's been done by a single person, so there's some drawbacks with that. But I think this is one of the best, most literal translations that you can get on the market. There's other things like the Young's literal translation. That's a good translation as well. That's more based on the Textus Receptus. This is based on the Robinson-Pierpont text, and he's aligned the American Standard Version, which was an excellent translation as far as being literal, to the textual choices that have been made in regards to the Byzantine text. So this is a great translation. It only cost $1.99, so it's definitely worth getting. Now, I told you that if you'd stay with me to the end of this video, I would tell you something that you're really going to appreciate. So if you don't know this already, and many people don't know this already, Adam Boyd, who did that revision, also did another translation. Now, this one isn't as literal. It's more dynamic in a sense. I think he has a particular way that he words how he's translated it. And I wouldn't agree with all of his translation choices. I'm sure he wouldn't agree with all of mine if I made my own translation. That's just the way things work. But this volume right here, this translation that he did, it's the Text Critical English New Testament. This is incredible. You've got to get your hands on this. I think he's put it at the minimum price that you can sell it for on Kindle. You can get it in hardback. The value to this, if you're into text criticism, if you're into textual variants, but you don't know Greek and you want to see how the critical text and the Byzantine text and the Textus Receptus, how these textual traditions differ, you'll want to get your hands on this. And the value of this is that he gives you textual variants at the bottom of the page, and where these manuscripts have been collated, he actually gives you percentages of what kind of manuscript support they have. It's a good translation of the Byzantine text as the base text, but shows you the places where the text disagrees. For example, in the famous textual variant in John 1:18, whether it's only begotten Son or one and only God or only begotten God, however you want to translate that, he'll show you how the manuscripts line up on this. Son has 98.3% manuscript support, Whereas the reading God there, if you're going to go with something like Only Begotten God or One and Only God, which is followed by the critical edition, it only has 0.3% manuscript support. So things like that make this very interesting, very valuable. And so I think you ought to get your hands on this volume. Now, again, don't make these your primary translations. So if you want to see what I think, I had to take just 3 translations with me to a desert island, which 3 would I take? I would recommend that you watch this video next.